Hi, all, welcome. I'm just going to give everyone a minute or two so everyone can join in. Okay, perfect. In the interest of time, I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Megha Chaudhary, Head of Global Marketing and Alliances at C5I. Welcome and thank you for attending this LinkedIn Live on AI in Action, a practitioner's perspective from the C5I Campus Gen AI series. This session promises valuable insights on leveraging AI for the greatest impact, overcoming AI implementation issues, and driving adoption. I'll quickly talk briefly about the host company C5I. C5I is a pure play AI and analytics provider that combines the power of human perspective with AI technology to deliver trustworthy intelligence. The company drives value through a comprehensive solution set, integrating multifunctional teams that have technical and business domain expertise with a robust suite of platforms, solutions, and accelerators tailored for various horizontal and industry specific use cases. I'll take your attention to a couple of housekeeping items. A recording will be available on our LinkedIn event page for those who have registered for the live. We will have the last 5 minutes dedicated to Q&A. You can post your questions in the comments section. If they do not get answered during the webinar, send us your questions as scalewithgenai at c5i.ai. We have a time frame of 30 minutes, and we hope you will stay with us through the entire time frame of the webinar. With this, let me introduce you to our speakers for the day. We have Ram Iyer and Anis Merchant with us today. Ram Iyer is the Senior Director, Digital Strategy and E-commerce at Microsoft. Ram is a relentless optimist and explorer, always pushing beyond the known. As a leadership team member at Microsoft, he drives global digital strategy and e-commerce with an AI-first mindset and a passion for continuous learning. With 20 plus years in digital e commerce and retail, including two startups, he thrives on ambiguity and leads with influence, not power. Welcome to our webinar, Ram.
Thank you.
And we also have Anis Merchant, EVP Global Head of Innovation, IP, and Analytics Consulting at C5I. Anis Merchant leads the global innovation and consulting business at C5I. He has guided sizable digital transformation initiatives for numerous global Fortune 500 clients across various industries. Anis's current role chiefly involves guiding platform innovation, getting the go to market strategy, and building the strategic partner ecosystem. Welcome, Anis.
Thanks, Megha. Thanks for the kind introduction.
Now, with that, I think no further ado, I'll give it to both of you. The floor is yours, and I let's dive straight in.
No, thanks, Megha. And thank you, Ram, for taking time out from a busy schedule. We were just talking just before this conversation started that how critical this period is for your business and the business worldwide because of the key holiday season. We just almost completed Cyber Monday, which was just yesterday,
Yes.
and we have a bigger event now, Christmas and Christmas breaks coming up. Uh, so thanks for taking time out in that busy schedule and agreeing to do this. And today's topic is very interesting. It talks all about a perspective from a practitioner. While it's a big topic about AI practitioner, but I would just put it as practitioner. I'm humble to say I'm a student of AI, not a pro in AI in the way things are. And the reason why I call myself as a student of AI because of the evolution and the changes which are happening on a daily basis. It's very hard to keep up with it. Definitely, I have some thoughts later on, which I will definitely like to ask you how you keep up with it. But before we get there, it's important for all of us. I strongly believe uh, that before you go ahead and start teaching the world, you have to start understanding how it applies to you on your day-to-day life.
Hmm.
My first question or thought to you, Ram, before we go to talk about what you do in your professional life, Like, how are you using AI in your daily life, and how do you see those learnings coming to work or bringing them to work?
No, I think first, just a moment of gratitude, Anis. I want to first of all thank you for a great partnership as C5I and Microsoft. I think I recall the first time we met, 6 years ago, if I'm right, and the conversation we had, and then how this has evolved into such a great relationship between uh, the two companies. Now, you've been working with Microsoft long, but our relationship evolved from 6 years. And thank you, Mega, as well, for that a great introduction. This is very exciting for me, and it's indeed a privilege to be here talking about generative AI, which is a transformative topic, part of the Compass series, as Mega shared. And I think the question you ask is a very important question because in order to make AI a daily habit, you really need to embrace AI. And the way I look at AI, for me, it's more like my professional sidekick, if you may. I think it is my best friend at work. And to make it real, I think the best way to do it is to give an example in the day in the life of how AI comes to life for me. And let's just flashback to yesterday. We just
Okay.
coming, as you rightly said, from the Thanksgiving weekend. We had the Black Friday, Cyber Monday. One of the things which I'm always curious to understand is what are some of the e-commerce trends that are there from various sources, and how is it performing. So of course I can see the data from my own business, but I really want to understand the macro indicators of and the trends which are there. And so I put Copilot to task at 6:30 a.m. In the morning. I was deciding whether to go to run, or actually do the run. But by the time I said, let me just put Copilot to task, and Copilot was able to scrape and give me a fabulous summary of a 5-minute summary of all the trends which are there from the ecom perspective. It looked at all data from Adobe Analytics to eMarketer to all the sources of information in terms of CNBC, and it did give me a fantastic summary of the macro trends. Now, this is really, really interesting for me, because in the earlier world, I would have to go and search for all this information, and Copilot made my task easier. Fast forward to 7:30 in the morning, when I started diving into my inbox. When you come back from a long weekend, you can imagine what would happen after Thanksgiving. There's massive mails that are there from all the way from Europe, which sends you early notes, and you have emails from Asia, which have come overnight. And this is where AI becomes almost like a translator for a 24-hour workday, because it
Mhm.
goes and looks at my inbox, it summarizes all my themes, it helps me prioritize the most important information. If there's a common theme or a problem which is there across various regions, I'm able to address those on priority and tackle multiple things at one time. So that's pretty powerful. Move forward to about 9 a.m., I received a deck, which was only 127 slides. Now, we've all been there, where we've received a 127 slide deck for an important
Sure.
project, cross-functional team, and many slides. And I was really looking to myself and saying, how do I process this? And one of the hacks that I've found is that the best way to process these kind of large documents is to convert them into an FAQ. So I asked Copilot to take the deck, convert it into a digestible FAQ. It was like translation of an academic thesis of
Right.
sorts to a TED talk, if you may. So it did a fabulous job of making that happen, and so I could deal with that without any problem. Now, here's the beauty. I think what I really like about AI is that it's infinitely patient. It's always polite. It never gets tired. It never, uh, never frowns. It never gets angry. Even you ask it for the fifth time a draft, it will keep producing the draft. Sometimes you have to kind of say please and try again, and it just like a human, you nudge it, it kind of comes back with a much better response. But even in my personal life, like, I was thinking of a Christmas gift for my wife, and AI helps me identify a Christmas gift. Spoiler alert: it suggested diamond jewelry. I think that's quite heavy on my pocket. I was looking at a much more
As if
lighter
she's
option.
not listening to this, that you're using AI to determine your gift.
I know, but it helps me plan my holidays. So the beauty of all this is that the interplay that I have with AI helps me understand both the strengths and the quirks of AI at a high level. And AI is very good, I would say, overall in terms of summarizing, in terms of surfacing trends. But sometimes the responses can be very generic.
Yeah.
And this is where I think the human becomes really important, because if you can give good context, I think the responses that you get from AI become much more powerful. So AI is not just about efficiency. I think the way I bring back all this to my professional work, to your question, is how do I learn from all these personal experiences and the AI as a daily habit to the professional world of digital strategy and e-commerce in terms of designing meaningful human-centered experiences, and that's how I bring it to fore. Now, I'm curious, Anis, you've been listening to me, but what are some of the ways AI has snuck into your life, and any surprises there for you?
Now, there have been many surprises. In fact, since you were talking, and I've been thinking about, okay, how it has seamlessly gotten. We all are using phones and all of that, right, today. So I'm not going
Right.
to talk about how AI is already inbuilt into these devices. But and I'm sure you would appreciate, Ram, as you grow higher in the ranks, right, which every new aspirant today believe that they want to get there, but it gets lonelier on the top, right, as they,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the professional part, but also I'll share a little bit on the personal side. There are many times that we as individuals forget that we don't have anybody to kind of bounce off or think what we are thinking, right? Either from a
Mm.
strategy or from an innovation or from areas, or there are crazy ideas which are bubbling in our mind. Now you need a partner of sort to where you can go mental sparring with, as an example, and do a lot
Mm.
of what if analysis, and kind of build scenarios, because there are a lot of, we always do procrastination in our minds about things in our life, and even at work. Uh, so one thing which I've been using AI, and it has, I would say it's become a dirty habit. Rather than talking to human beings, I'm talking to the AI. Like you
Okay.
said, uh, less of emotions from a response, but more logical and calculative responses, and more methodical responses. And I change my tone of language. I change my language, words also, the choice of words. And I'm carefree. I am who I am, right? And I'm talking to
Yeah.
a person. I don't have to add any filters,
Right.
but the response is very structured, methodical, without same emotions, same responses. And it's opened up a lot of my eyes. It's given me a lot of different perspectives. It's helped me challenge a lot of thoughts. Like one of the areas which I was thinking, and I asked to play the role of a challenger, right, to really
Mm.
beat me down to my idea,
Mm.
like why this
Mm.
idea will fail, as an example. Okay, and I was giving all the right reasons in my mind why that idea will pass. And that kind of really has worked out, and that's a very interesting way, which has really become like couple of hours before, I was just sitting on the couch because I had some time before the call, and then an idea struck me, and I was kind of going after, like, and I just looked at my watch, and I was almost speaking to it for 20 minutes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's addictive because it gets not it, that fun element quickly goes away, and it becomes real for you, right? It's like that Her movie, it actually
Yep.
starts believing that the other side is the human being. So that's one way which it has snuck. But on the personal side today, uh, whether I'm learning or whether I'm researching or I'm trying out new things, I'm documenting all my knowledge, like what I have learned, and it kind of summarizes and it helps me, kind of almost becomes my second brain of sorts.
Mm.
And it's really helping me kind of documenting everything which I'm been going through. I personally created 8 personal agents which work automatically for
Yeah.
myself, right? And I'm planning to create more of these. So that's how AI has kind of snuck in very easily into my day to day and in my professional life, while keeping the guardrails of privacy, data security, and all of that, right? And building on a little bit more on the professional side, Ram, and I just want to kind of this question, because when Megha was introducing you about e-commerce,
Yeah.
digital, and all of that, right? And we all know digital as a business is evolving, right? We just
Mm.
spoke about the e-commerce trends and commerce trends, and today there's a lot of talk about AI impacting e-commerce and digital strategies. How do
Yeah.
you how do you foresee, or how do you today at Microsoft, the world which you live in is so behemoth, right? For your
Yeah.
function, for your business, how do you decide that you're going to use AI here? What's your approach?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, Anis, and thank you for your reflections as well on how AI is becoming your alternate brain, so to say, and helping you. It's pretty powerful, kind of just listening to you and inspiring. Here's what I would say first is that AI is first not a silver bullet. It's more like a precision scalpel, and so the more crystal clear you can be in terms of the problem that you're trying to solve, the better you'll be able to leverage AI. So rather than asking the question, what can I do with AI here? I think it's better to reframe it as
Hmm.
what's the job to be done. So starting with a jobs to be done framework is perhaps the best way. And I think you and I were both in the CAB meeting where Dr. Soni from Northwestern School spoke about, if you throw a tool at everything, you will become a fool, so to say. And that's sage wisdom there, right? So it's so important for all of us to really understand and embrace this jobs to be done framework. So we've exactly done that. What we've done is we've taken a three-step approach. We've kind of done first an explore phase, where it's brainstorming and looking at what if possibilities, like you shared earlier. What if we could do this and explore the ideas or the jobs to be done first. From there, we narrow it down to ideas that are feasible and
Hmm.
those which can deliver impact. So those are the two vectors on which we prioritize, because there's no point trying to do a project which is going to take several years to complete. We are a big believer in MVP and iteration, so the test and learn phase kicks in then, where we identify these jobs to be done. And one such example, if I have to just bring it home, is Chat with Pi, which is the partner intelligence companion that we built along with you.
Hmm.
Now, the idea there was, the job to be done there was, what if we could empower our regions to get insights on partner capability without them having to come back to us every time for insights? And so we said we need to create a companion, uh, Pi, which will help them serve with insights. And that's how we started the process of Pi. And that we went through several iterations in terms of really building the model and getting it right. And it took us some time to prove the value that's coming out of Pi before we decided to scale it, which is the next third step. So it's explore, it's test and learn, and then scale. And in scale, we typically bet with ideas where we have seen proven results. Now, it's very important that you don't fall in love with your darlings, because you have to give up things in the test and learn phase, which don't deliver results, because it's quite possible that there might be something that but at the same time, having the resilience to persist and do a little bit of iterative work and progress, not perfection, is critical. And in scaling with Chat with Pi, we've seen that we have empowered all our regions now to use Pi as a companion for them to get insights. And the beauty of Pi, the way we built it, is we started off first, like, how do we use our partner capability data, which we have collected since we met 6 years ago, and we've been doing the partner opportunity capability assessments, and we have that solid data, which is the engine. But what Pi did was more interesting. It not only looked at that data, it also went and looked at financial reports of our retail partners. It combined that external data with this rich internal data, to really give insights, which I call as unobvious insights, things which you would have typically not got if you had just looked at your own data. And it's great in terms of not only you can ask questions to Pi, like which partner has the best omni-channel capability. You can compare a Best Buy's e-commerce capability with an Amazon's capability, but it also predicts the kind of questions that perhaps you need to ask as a follow-up. So it almost helps you peel the onion of insights, if you
Mhm.
may. It helps us understand at a deeper level. And it also does, we've then gone ahead and built visualization, and we've built an omni model. Now you can use voice on it. And that becomes even more interesting, because then you can use it, like you said, like a companion where you have a conversation.
Right.
So for me, I think this has been like, taking a jobs to be done approach, and really kind of embracing that mindset is critical as you think about, this application of AI in the real world.
No, very interesting, Ram. And there are some very interesting questions which are coming in from the audience as well. And I think you answered Ronald's question, are there frameworks? And you kind of spoke about the explore, test, and learn and scale framework, in addition to looking at it and applying it to the jobs to be done, JTBD framework as it's called, to really apply that. So hopefully, Ronald, it's answered your question. There's a very interesting question from Saswati, and it kind of very
Yeah.
easily brings in my the third aspect of today's conversation is, you know while you talk about an the partner opportunity capability assessment and then the maturity with chat with Pi, it's a big change management in terms of how you operate. And when you look at the jobs to be done, there is a different change management exercise from a people front, which requires, like you said, regional teams, your own teams, and partners like us. And there are much more larger teams, your executives and different business stakeholders. How do you prepare and ensure that the team and organization are ready to embrace the change which AI would bring in, right? And Saswati has also asked the same question.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great question from Shashwati in terms of bringing alignment across various functions. And I think the AI landscape is quite vast if you look at it, Anis, and it does require a different kind of thinking. And in the thread which I like to look at is, just like in the era of digital, we were all talking of building a digital IQ, and the digital intelligence quotient. In the era of AI, I think we all need to build what I call as artificial intelligence quotient, AIQ. I think that becomes that muscle, building that muscle of AIQ becomes really, really critical, because this is something which, as much as you're trying to think of it as a technology or a tool where you're going to give access, it's all about really building a culture change, so to say, right? And so again, a simple way we look at AIQ is in three steps. We look at first learning AI. This is all about demystifying all the jargon, like trying to understand what is retrieval augmented generation, trying to understand how LLMs work. And so for that, we have structured courses. We have a site. You can also use LinkedIn Learning to get a primer on generative AI. So we encourage people to go and learn and understand how technologies work. That's step one, which is learning AI. Step two is doing AI, which is where AI is not a spectator sport. You have to actually
Right.
play with AI, and you have to work with AI. So we create a safe space for, no matter which function you are, you get a safe space to kind of play with AI. And we use the forums like digital learning forums. We try to bring use cases which are out of the work scene as well, because it makes it more fun and interesting and engaging to work with Designer, to work with Copilot Pro, in terms of understanding how we can use for summarizing emails. And sometimes the responses are not great, and that's okay. I think this is not about celebrating only wins, but also creating an opportunity for people to share where it didn't work well, and then leaning on others to help them, coach them on how they could improve the prompt to make it better for them. So it's really creating that safe space for experimentation through these forums and getting them kick-started on the journey of playing with AI. And finally, the last step is again scaling with AI, where AI gets integrated as a daily habit, so to say. And that is a step which, one of the best practices that I have there is we typically create what we call as green forests. Like these are small champion teams which are there within the regions. Rather than trying to address many, we address few. And so these teams start working and experimenting with these AI technologies. And the best way all this sticks, if you were to just go back to the chat with Pi example, is when you connect a practical concept like RAG with an application like Chat with Pi, where we've used the RAG model, then I think the learning sticks. So I think it's really, really important to make that connection between what's happening on the conceptual side with the practical side. And that then helps, drive this flywheel of building AIQ across the organization. Now, it's a journey, it does take an effort, but I think, this is how you can start seeding what I would call seeds of building an AI first culture across teams so that they start thinking with an AI first mindset in many ways when they are starting to approach new challenges and are looking at new opportunities which are there on the horizon.
Nice, nice. And I think you kind of certainly answered Prachi's question also. Like as a student, if she is evaluating how to build careers in AI, what should be there, and that AIQ piece is a very interesting piece, but linked to what she's talking about, ethical and societal. So as human beings, we often talk about IQ, EQ, and then there is an SQ, which is societal quotient. I think
Yeah.
with AIQ, EQ, and SQ, you if you have a right mix, that center point of that three concentric circles will really make a big impact, Prachi. Hopefully that answered your question as well. Thanks, Ram, for doing that. But Ram, while we talk about experimentation and with chat with Pi, and you spoke about
Yeah.
don't do scale in large organizations such as yours, right? And you spoke about results and business outcomes, right? It's not easy to drive innovation with the pressure of delivering business results.
Hmm.
How do you balance both, right? To be ahead of the game, especially in Microsoft's environment, y'all are way ahead of everybody. So how do you all, as your own internal teams, how do you all choose to keep up with the pace of what's being demonstrated externally, but also delivering business outcomes? Because y'all are for profit, not profit. It's not non-profit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really great question, and it's something which I'm sure you wrestle. Many leaders wrestle with this thought which you have raised is how do you balance between current immediate wins vis-a-vis long-term perform long-term capability that you want to really build for the future. And the way I kind of look at it is that this is where the interconnected play of perform and transform comes to life. So perform is all focused on immediate wins where you can deliver tangible value. And just to make it real, I'd say, one of the AI experiences that we have is what's called as a Help Me Choose Copilot. Now, Help Me Choose Copilot helps you select uh, the best PC which is best suited to your needs. If you really go and search for laptops on any site, you get multiple PCs. Now we build this Copilot with on some of our leading retailers, including Best Buy, where we see that by having this Copilot, you are able to make it easy for consumers to answer a few questions and get to the PC of their choice. Now this has had a fabulous impact in terms of conversion rates. It's helped us deliver immediate impact in terms of ROI, helps us drive growth. So the Help Me Choose Copilot is a great example of perform. Now, when you go to transform, this is where you have to start reimagining new things. And one such example is if you have to reimagine content generation. And I think there's a question from Hitachi as well that I saw on personalization. Today, you can do personalization at scale, and a transform project which we are working on is with a company called Typeface, which is a Microsoft startup. It uses Microsoft technology, and what we found there is that this requires complete reimagination of the way you are really building content, right? But it offers you a tremendous possibility of really personalizing content at scale, and making that nirvana state which we imagined at one day, that we don't have to just do A B testing. We can actually do A B C D E F. Like we can actually do alphabet testing, to that extent. Now, the most important thing in this is what Hitashi's raised is a great point, is that we always make sure that we are following responsible AI principles, in
Mhm.
terms of making sure that we put privacy first, in terms of everything that's being done. We make sure there's fairness, there's inclusion, because these are important considerations when you really kind of look at it. So grounding some of your work in these elements becomes really, really critical. And the other interesting piece which is there is on innovation. One of the things which I have done is created what I call as a small lunacy budget. Now, I'm sure this will raise eyebrows of many finance folks, because this is something they may not like, because, why do you need a lunacy budget? But in order to create ideas where you can experiment freely, to build the future, you do need to have a small budget for doing innovation.
Yeah.
And so the lunacy budget creates the license for me to do that experimentation, and also my teams, so that they can go freely and experiment with new ideas. And success is not guaranteed on this idea, on those projects. You might fail, but you would learn something, and therefore you would use those learnings to build the future.
No, thanks, Raman. Just building on, for the benefit of the audience, we just released our analytics, artificial intelligence impact framework, which we are leveraging to go ahead and measure the outcomes also. So if people are interested, happy to have them come in, and we do see, how we can be a little bit more predictable in terms of
Yeah.
these outcomes as well. And that's something which at CFI we are promoting heavily, that before you embark on programs, you can actually use the framework to go ahead and drive that. Just closing thoughts, right? And as a practitioner, we spoke about this, and I want to kind of make it a closed loop, right?
Yeah.
When you're using AI, how do you stay ahead of everything what's going on? There's too much going on. How do you stay ahead?
Yeah, that's a great
Do
question.
you
And,
get up
and,
at 5:30? You spoke about 7:30. Do you get up at 5:30 to stay ahead of AI?
no, it's a really good question, Anis, and that's perhaps the most exciting part of my job, right? If you really look at it, staying abreast with technology is what gives me joy at my job. And quite honestly, that requires multiple things. One is, first of all, I'm very, very grateful to be part of Microsoft, because I have a front row seat here
Mhm.
on all things AI. I get to experience a lot of technology. Like, I got access to Copilot Studio, so I can actually build my agent and play around with AI. But just proximity sometimes is not good enough. I would say that, in all humility, that, proximity is good, you get, but you have to start investing time and learning. And so LinkedIn Learning is a great place where you can go and learn. Substack and podcasts are great. The two things I would recommend is one, Useful Thing by Ethan Malik. That's one of the Substack I do subscribe or read. I like to read from that. The podcast from Reid Hoffman on Possible, I think that's something which really kind of looks at technology, pushes you to think forward. That's an interesting thing. And finally, I think you have to kind of play with AI. I think, I always experiment with anything which is new, which is there in the horizon. I like to create my own agents. Like you have agents, I have my own agents. And so sometimes, playing with AI gets you going. The most important thing here, Anis, I would say, is to really have what Satya calls as a learn it all mindset. You really need to be curious enough to learn and keep learning, because, I think, as you said, you're a student, and there's not one way you can stay ahead in terms of learning with AI. It requires a trifactor approach, if you may. You need to do structured learning, you need to learn from the community, and you need to get hands-on with experimentation with AI. And I think if you put these three things together, I think you would yeah, I think you will find a way, your own formula, so to say, learning formula to build your AIQ and stay ahead.
Thanks, Ram, for sharing that. I think all those sources are great sources for anybody to learn. So yeah, no, thanks a lot for your time. I know we are a little ahead of the schedule. I know you stretched a little bit from a time commitment perspective. So
Yeah.
thank you again. Really appreciate that. Megha, over to you. If there are any leftover
Yes.
questions.
I have so many questions. I think I'm going to do a follow-up session with both Ram and you. I think learn it all myself sums it up beautifully, Ram, because it's a journey we all need to take. I really need to thank both of you for such amazing insights. We're embracing AI. We all embrace AI. We're doing it ourselves, but just learning how you guys are practicing on a daily basis, gives us so many ideas as well. So thank you again, Ram and Anis, for this interesting session. And thank you to all the listeners for joining AI in Action, a practitioner's perspective today. We really hope this session has sparked new ideas about learning AI, embracing cultural change, and adapting to these transformative tools. I think together we all are creating opportunities to even improve prompts, teach machines more effectively, and scale AI into daily habits. And also, your participation drives innovation forward. So thank you for being a part of this journey. And thank you, Ram and Anis, again for this wonderful discussion.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mega. Thanks, Anis. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in. I think there's some really good questions in the chat. Apologies if we didn't answer all of them, but we will definitely get back to you and we will provide our perspective. So thanks all for tuning in. As much as I was sharing, I was learning from all the good questions that were coming through in the chat. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ram. Thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.